Player 4 Podcast's first t-shirt is now on sale at tpublic.com. Ever wonder what it takes to make a good podcast? We've already done the math for you and put it on a t-shirt. Visit our storefront at tpublic.com/user/P4podcast and get yours today. That's tpublic.com/user/P4podcast.
This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Player 4 Podcast.
Hello, I am Tristan, aka Chakrazier on the Rooster Teeth website.
I am Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
I'm Malachi, a.k.a. Suki Kiba.
And I'm Joseph, a.k.a. J. Dunlap.
Welcome to another week of the podcast of the Player 4s. The Player 4s the Player Podcast 4.
4 podcasts. All 4 of them.
With one player.
4 podcast players.
Right.
I missed you guys.
We'll get it eventually. We missed you too, Joseph. Now that Joseph's back, we've got a full schedule. We wanted to talk about some news from the RT side of the business. Just wanted a chance to talk with Malachi about Red vs. Blue Season 4 and the Re-Living Vicariously segment. And then he wanted to talk to us about Marvel shows on Netflix.
So, the biggest news for us this week is that Player 4 Podcast is going to have a panel at RTX 2016.
What?
Whose fault is that?
Yeah,
It's Joseph's.
it's my fault. I went and I made an application for the panel, and then I informed you guys afterward.
Oh, Joseph.
Not to mention the fact that he's not going to RTX.
No,
except for
we've
one
talked.
day.
Yes.
Well,
okay.
you're going that one day because of the panel.
Yes. I was actually not going to go if we didn't have a panel. It wasn't worth it. But since there's a panel, I am going. And there's actually a chance that maybe I'll get a day pass for Gina as well, and she can come and be at the panel and hang out with us.
Yay!
So that means we'll have one person in our audience at least.
At the very least.
We'll have a Gina.
A few people have been excited for it. Let's see, Matt, Andres, I'm assuming Rick is excited. Obo Crazy was supportive of the tweet when we tweeted out that we had the panel. So that's a handful of people, although this time we'll know that it's Rick.
No, we all knew it was Rick. It was just you didn't know it was Rick.
Hey, sorry, my Twitter was acting up yesterday, but I'm here. I'm like, Coolios, thanks for coming. So, actually, what happened was, I sent you guys a message on Skype. I was like, I may or may not have applied for a panel, and I may or may not have promised in the description of the panel that we were doing a live table reading.
He may or may not have sworn us away, against our will.
Does that mean I have to be on like a voice chat while you guys are at the panel?
Oh, you have to be at RTX.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprise!
Now, should I get a little bit of Twitter games ready as well, or should we just stick to the table reading and regular podcast format?
I don't know if there would be time to do Twitter games and table reading, unless that was all we did.
Table games.
Wait,
Just because I feel like Twitter games we could have added like an audience element to it so that they could answer and win prizes.
Ooh, yes, we could have. Oh my gosh, Alex, we could have T-shirts we give out, and they could answer Twitter games questions.
Ooh.
Everybody likes it when you launch T-shirts in the crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we get a T-shirt launcher?
A little gun.
So that's the news we have. Hopefully, as we draw closer to RTX and they release the schedule for the panels, we'll be able to inform everyone of when that is, if they are going to be at RTX and want to see us live.
That's all that we have. You forgot to inflate my ego.
Oh, no.
And Tristan will be there.
That's not what I meant, but thank you.
Okay. Other news. Now, RT-specific related news. The RWBY Volume 3 has been released for Blu-ray and DVD. The soundtrack has also been released, and the soundtrack made it to third place, I know, yesterday on iTunes. I'm not sure. I thought I saw a tweet saying that it went higher today, but I can't remember if it's actually true or not.
Selling for like $10. You should pick it up.
I like to get the physical copy, so I have to wait for that. And that took a while. I know it took a while for the first one. I can't remember how long it took for the second one to come out on physical copy. So we'll see.
It's because they don't like CDs. Why would you want a CD when you can have MP3s on your iPad, iPod?
I don't have any Apple products because I hate Apple, so...
I did not poo.
And actually, I had one Apple product growing up, and it was an iPod Mini, I think, and it sucked. Like, the battery life was terrible, and so that from then on, I was like, no more Apple products. They suck.
I had Apple Mini.
Oh, God.
Also, before anybody else chimes in, RWBY Chibi this weekend, and I think RWBY 14 might be, or it might be later, but I know RWBY Chibi is definitely this weekend.
RWBY Chibis.
Yes, they showed a preview to the people who went to the RWBY Volume 1 screening, and so now they're showing the actual first episode this weekend.
Did any of you get to see that?
No, I did not. There weren't actually any theaters close by to me that I could have gone to.
Negative.
I didn't. But they're
shame.
supposed to be totes adorbs.
I'm waiting for Camp.
What kind of camp is it anyway?
It's a camp.
It's a camp you go to experience going to camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
You want special stairs on this house? Yes.
Yes.
Hey, that's almost a segue, considering the fact that school is finally out for a lot of us, and
Not
that
me.
means, well, not okay, sure, but I just finished with teaching, and that was the reason I had to skip last week because I was in the middle of finals week. I have free time now, so this summer expect a lot more of our P4 crafts that we have recorded, and perhaps more that we're going to record, just as a reference to The Emperor Builds a House. Yes.
Yes.
I put in a door, technically.
You put in a door. It's a door. And you also were going to plant poppies and get me thrown in jail.
It almost worked.
No poppies. So,
No poppies.
Speaking of nothing we've been talking about at all, but we were talking about RTX, so I guess it's pretty close to that. Rooster Teeth, I think Barbara was manning the Rooster Teeth Snapchat account today, so they went to the different sites that they're going to have RTX, and they were just checking it out and getting ready. So the tech guys like Adam, they were there, and then Gus was there, and Barbara was there, and a few other people that are in charge of RTX were there, and then Gus was being face filtered. So if you follow them on Snapchat, check that out. You'll see them checking out all the different locations. I think there were 3 or 4 different buildings that they went to.
All right, Snapchat it up.
So I think that's it for news.
News is done.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys about last week since I missed it, and because of scheduling, the episode that you guys recorded hasn't come out yet. So I wanted to know if there was anything I missed that I would want to comment on. Like, did you talk about me?
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on.
Last without you. No.
We're going from news, so we were talking about news, and now we're going back to talk about other stuff. So now we're going to talk about olds.
We've got to go back.
Sure.
Back to the future.
Gonna go
Time
back,
travel.
back to school again.
Nobody got my pun.
It's Grease 2. It's Grease 2. Okay,
No.
Anyway.
I got it. It's olds.
Okay,
We're doing
thank you.
olds now.
Yeah, we're
News
doing
is done.
oldies.
Olds is now. Oldies but goodies.
Low,
Yeah,
right,
no,
okay,
last
no.
week was great, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Oh.
Especially the fact that Joseph was gone. It was so great without Joseph. I'm kidding. It was
I am
sad
lay
without
sad.
Joseph.
Lay sad.
Lay sad.
Then
We
take a
talked
nap.
about Empires of His House. So we talked about the movies that were coming out, specifically Batman, The Killing Joke, Warcraft, and Borderlands. We gave a couple minutes to each of those. And then we relived vicariously Season 4 of Red vs. Blue with Malachi. And then I talked about what I saw and did at PAX. That was last week.
No looking, only touching.
No touching, only caressing.
Isn't that touching?
No, it's touching plus. It's caressing.
It's touching plus. Caressing equals touching plus.
Then you go blind.
That's a shirt. Caressing equals touching plus.
Well, the episode that we lost, we were supposed to talk about Warcraft, so we covered that.
You know why you guys lost it? It's because I wasn't going to be in it.
Oh. So you said earlier today, I asked about whether you had done Reliving Vicariously, and since Malachi hasn't had a chance to watch anything for this week's episode, I thought maybe you could catch me up to speed on what you talked about last week so I could join in the conversation. So what did you talk about last week in Red vs. Blue?
The end of the season 4 that we talked about was Donut gets hit by the spaceship at the end of it. So that's the marker. That's the marker of the end of it.
Yes, we talked about season 4.
Yeah.
So where did season 4 start?
If I remember right, it was with the Carlos army. Or Lopez army? Not Carlos.
Lopez army.
Yeah, the Lopez.
Generic Spanish name number 42.
Yes.
No, so you told us it was with them returning from Zanzibar to Blood Gulch.
Oh, yes.
And then there was a shooting game involving Griff, and then you said that the Blues went on an adventure.
Yes, and Tucker got pregnant. My favorite, one really favorite thing with Sarge, who's got to mention him, is when they found Lopez's head and he had to switch it with Andy, and then he left Lopez behind because he was supposed to translate.
Yoink!
And then Tucker yoink. Sarge's just whole comment about, it's like, well, you could see it with the cyberlight. Why don't you just take him out? And Sarge's like, that's a coward's way of doing it. You gotta do it man to man.
You want to look them in the face, look them in the eye, so they know you're the one who killed them.
Yes.
Also gives you a chance for a zippy one-liner.
There you go. Like, you just got sarged.
Alright, well, so that's some key points we talked about last week. So, don't want to go too much in because I don't want to be a complete repeat on people.
No, but I wanted to talk about season 4.
Yeah.
I knew that missing last week would mean that I was missing the talk about my favorite season of Red vs. Blue.
So that's your favorite?
Just how tired I was and just blown out from finals week because I really, really wanted to talk about season 4. The first episode that I watched of Red vs. Blue, when I was like knowingly sitting down and watching Red vs. Blue, because a long time ago someone linked me on AOL chat the internet versus real life video. So that was just, it's funny. It's guys in Halo and it's funny. But when I actually knew I was watching Red vs. Blue, I was on the website, redvsblue.com, and sitting down and watching the show, which at the time, the only way to watch the older stuff was to be a sponsor. I think to download the high-quality versions of it. And now it's not quite like that. You just stream it. So I just sat down, I watched Season 4, Episode 1. And Season 4 was in progress, but I think I got to catch up with what they had made of Season 4 up to that point, and I just really, really thought it was great, but the interesting thing is how different Season 4 is from the other seasons, because it's kind of contained unto itself. Like, they've got the prophecy about the sword. Season 3 ends with Gary saying, the Great Destroyer has arrived, and so when you watch Season 4, if you haven't seen Season 3, you're confused about that, but they don't really hinge on that. It's just, oh, hey, there's an alien, and now they're being funny, and Griff doesn't like that they're back at a place that they used to be at. You got that, so, and you get that Sarge doesn't like Griff, and then they go on the adventure, and then Tucker gets pregnant, and the ship lands on Donut. It's all very contained. And you get all the characters through the story. You had seasons 1 through 3, which in my mind is kind of a package deal, where the story kind of leads up to this point. And then season 4 is sort of a continuation of the story, but it doesn't really hinge on the first 3 seasons. Season 5 sort of ignores everything before it in season 4, except for Junior. It sort of goes back to the season 1 through 3 idea of O'Malley and the conspiracy therein, and Vic, and all of that, and then they made it seem like at the end of Season 5 that the whole thing's done. So, Season 4 is kind of a standalone story in my mind, because we do develop the idea of O'Malley, and we do develop the idea of the Great Destroyer, and we have Crunchbite, and we have Junior, and then Junior becomes part of the story in Season 5. But the other parts of it, the adventure, the comparisons to D&D, I'm a lover, not a fighter. That sounded kind of gay, dude. And other than a few callback references in Season 4 and callbacks to Season 4, it is pretty contained. So I really enjoyed the banter that happened in that season, the change of location as they're going on their adventures, establishing Tex as Tex just by what she does to the Zealots.
As someone in an employee-manager relationship...
Yeah, so I feel like, Tristan, at RTX you need to be the Joker again, but that's not set in stone or anything. It's just that Gina was saying she'd really like to hear that. Anyway, my favorite parts of Season 4 would have to be the comparisons to D&D or World of Warcraft, where they're saying that they need the fighter, the healer, the stealthy archer, the stealthy and good-looking archer, and the good-looking and intelligent wizard Morphumax. I actually made a video a long time ago, back when Kingdom Hearts 2 was still new, and Red vs. Blue Season 4 was new. I made a video that I think might still be on YouTube, I'm not sure if it is, where it's the characters from Kingdom Hearts, so it's, what's his name, Sora or whatever, and Donald and Mickey and Goofy. Caboose is, I want to say Sora? He's telling them all their different roles, and I just have it kind of a mishmash of scenes from Kingdom Hearts cutscenes, and it's just that scene where he's telling them what their different roles are. That was around the same time that I made a series called Master Chief Caboose 117, and it started off as a video of the Halo 3 announcement trailer, and it was just cut with little quotes from Caboose. Then I made a little series of, I think it was 4 episodes, and it was just cut scenes from the various Halo games, 1 through 3, where Caboose is Master Chief responding to what people are saying.
Yes, I recall that. You showed that to me at one point.
Yeah, it was. They were pretty well received in their time, and I even remastered the trailer version, the trailer video, because back in the day, YouTube was like, 240p, and that was it, and I was thankful to have it. And I was thankful for that dirt. But I remastered it, I think, to 1080p at one point. But I didn't ever do anything with the episodes themselves. But you should go watch those. Master Chief Caboose-117. Because the intro is kind of funny, too. It's the beginning of Halo 2 where the guy's chewing out Master Chief because he screwed up the armor. And he's like, you know how much this gear is, son? And the Master Chief puts the helmet on, and he goes, I want a pony.
There you go.
And that's also a Season 4 quote, which is, what do you want, Caboose? I want a pony.
I want a pony, too. You know what else I wanted?
What?
I want to talk about Marvel.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to wrap up by saying that Season 4 inspired me in a lot of ways, because it was my first season. There was an adventure, there were the Reds messing around, there was, I forgot to mention Simmons. Freaking Simmons when he was disguised as a blue. Like, I was just having a conversation yesterday with Gina while we were shopping at Walmart about Simmons when he was disguised, and then Church knew about it, but he was pretending he didn't, so he was talking bad about Simmons and making him cry.
Yes.
Yeah, they talk about how he's not good at stuff, and they don't like him. Yeah, he sounds like kind of a jerk.
Yeah, the guy sounds like a real jerk.
So, yes.
Excuse me.
Now we get to move on to Marvel? Is that good? Are we good to move on to Marvel?
Yeah, I would like to move on to Marvel. Tell me about Marvel.
Okay,
what's going on Netflix?
So here's the deal, Tristan. Here's the deal about Marvel. I sacrifice so much of myself. No, really what happened was, from October, November onwards, I wanted to talk about Marvel, but then we were bringing Malachi into the fold, and we had a lot of guests, and we were just kind of finding our rhythm, and a lot of stuff happened at the beginning of the year, so I never got to talk about Marvel back when I wanted to talk about it back in November.
All right.
If you go back and you listen
Marvel
to...
now you can do it.
If you go back and listen to the episode where we had... I want to say it's the first episode where we had Shoban as a guest, where we talked about DJing for half an hour. I go, yes, and next week we're going to talk about Marvel. And then we don't. This is me getting to talk about Marvel, because I wanted to tell you guys about what's going on Netflix, because you said that none of you have been able to watch the Netflix series. Tristan, you watched season 1 of Daredevil?
Daredevil, yes.
I watched 1 episode.
I just haven't sat down. I haven't sat down with any of the others. I watched Arrow, and then I watched Daredevil season 1, and I felt like I was watching Arrow season 1 over again, so I didn't watch Daredevil season 1 anymore.
I remember you saying that a long time ago, that it had the same kind of look and feel. It's really interesting.
It did. And I also don't have the attachment to Daredevil that I do to Green Arrow. Is one of my better liked DC characters, so I had a lot of interest in that. Whereas Daredevil, I watched a movie that had Scarlett Johansson in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. It's an interesting thing. I saw a meme. I guess meme has extended to just pictures with words on them, but I saw a meme on Facebook recently that had Ben Affleck on it, and it also had, what's his name?
I don't know.
Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds.
There's a picture that had Ben Affleck and Ryan Reynolds on it, and it had the two different comic book characters that they've played, and it might as well have also had the guy who plays Captain America on there, and had the two characters he's played. And it says something about redemption because they were in bad movies with superheroes and now they're in good stuff with superheroes. So anyway, so I wanted to talk about Marvel for a little bit. So there's a few things to talk about here so that our listeners can be in the know on what's going on. So if they're interested, they can go and watch these things. And same for you guys. Although, Tristan, it seems like you've made up your mind about Daredevil, and that's fine. That's fair. You prefer Arrow. It's a character you're more attached to.
I'll give you raspberries.
Oh, okay.
All the raspberries all day long.
Like this?
Well, yes, but they don't sound good on the mic, so I just I say raspberry. You know what I mean.
Yes, and Tristan typically sounds good on the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Dropping those beats.
Dropping the knowledge.
The original thing I wanted to talk about was the cinematic universe, the movies that they're working on, but then I got to watch what they have on Netflix. Now, I watched Daredevil Season 1 when it first came out, but I watched Daredevil Season 2 recently and Jessica Jones, and I'm excited about what they're doing with that because there's going to be spinoffs, essentially. Should I start off with Netflix and then move on to the movies, since that's something that you guys will be more likely to watch?
Well, I mean, quickly introduce me to Jessica Jones. What is Jessica Jones? Who is she?
In some ways, is the Marvel Superman, because she's got super strength and she can jump really high.
Okay, she can jump really high. So she's like the original Superman. She doesn't fly like he didn't originally fly. She just jumps really far. And
then the Hulk is kind of like that as well. So you might also compare the three together. The Hulk, originally his thing was that he jumped everywhere. Like, I read the original comic for the Avengers, and that's what he was doing. He was jumping miles in the air. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's how he
So
he doesn't fly, he just jumps.
Jessica Jones lost her family in a car accident, just like Daredevil. And just like Daredevil, she was exposed to hazardous materials. But
she didn't lose her sight.
She didn't lose her sight. And instead, it's important to make a distinction there, because Daredevil didn't gain superpowers. He just lost his sight, but then he was trained to use his keen senses and be a good fighter.
So some people get into car accidents and have chemicals spilled on them and go blind. Other people get into car accidents and have chemicals spilled on them and get superpowers.
Yes. So Daredevil had to use his keen senses and the training from the old guy to make him stronger, but she straight up got Superman-like strength. Not like invincible or anything. Not like deflecting bullets, but just super strength, and she can jump really high. And
so if you shoot her, she's going to bleed.
Yes. She did get shot a few times.
Okay.
In the comics and in the TV show, she went on to be kind of a superhero. She had her own name. I forgot what it was, but she had her own superhero name. She saved people from burning buildings and, the full 9 yards. But then she was kidnapped by this nefarious bad guy who could control people's minds. I'm not talking like D&D where you can suggest something and they'll do it as long as it's not dangerous to them. I mean, like, he could tell them to do things they didn't want to do, and they would do it because they were compelled to do it. In the comics, he did far worse things to her than he did in the TV show, but it was still pretty bad. But mostly he just forced her to be his girlfriend, is the ins and outs of it. And she had to say yes, and the compulsion made her want to say yes. He even had her kill for him, but that ended up changing the relationship. So we pick up the show where it's her completely jaded and not wanting to get involved in this business ever again. In the comics, it was so bad that you had all these characters like Spider-Man and Captain America are her friends, and then she gets kidnapped for a long time, and they never do anything about it. So she wants nothing to do with superheroes after that.
They were not good friends.
I guess they were just busy or didn't know where to look, but they didn't try hard enough in her mind. In the TV
and the whole time she was just like under the compulsion from this dude?
Yes. Until finally the compulsion breaks, and then she's able to go and live her own life. She kind of lives off on her own at that point. In the TV show, at the very least, she's a private eye at that point. People pay her to go and snap pictures of people, rich people cheating on their wives and things like that. And she gets paid that way. She's just a PI. She goes and she tails people.
Right.
So that's the idea of Jessica Jones. She's a jaded Superman who no longer wants to be a hero. And that's where we pick up her story. and it's
So
very
she's got the
serious.
super strength, but she's only like using it to do her PI, and she's just like prying doors open.
Yeah.
And nobody else knows that she's this strong.
Mm-hmm. And there's another character in the TV show, which is Luke Cage. Now, if you know the comics, you know that they end up married. She ends up Jessica Cage. Luke Cage is a character in there. They have a sort of relationship for a little bit. He's the unbreakable man. Like, his skin is basically unbreakable, like Superman's.
So he's the other half of the Superman house.
He's the other half, basically.
Together, they are Superman.
It's interesting, like, a guy breaks a glass bottle over his head and nothing happens. And then
You just need to, like, tape them back to back. And then in fights, they just rotate around so that when it blows incoming, they swing the impervious guy, and then when they want to attack, they swing her around.
So he's getting a spin-off TV show about himself called Luke Cage. Maybe they'll have The Something, The Unbreakable, or something like that.
Is it bad that I keep thinking of Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat?
No, that's what I'm thinking too.
What about Nicolas Cage?
No, I'm thinking of Johnny Cage.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. But Luke Cage is going to get a spin-off. There's already a trailer for it on Netflix, and the mood of that, interestingly enough, is far lighter than anything else I've seen in Marvel, even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., especially later seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's, like, hip-hop music, and, like, guys fighting him, and he's like, you don't want to do this, and then they're going to fight, and he's just going to beat the crap out of him. So it's going to be a little bit lighter, which is interesting considering he was in Jessica Jones, which by far is the darkest property in Marvel. At least in the cinematic universe, because there's profanity, there's horrific deaths, there's body parts, like there's all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden, Luke Cage's trailer has hip-hop music and him kind of bantering with guys who, he's like, you don't want to fight me, it's not going to go well for you.
There's body parts and all kinds of stuff.
No, really. There are body
That
parts.
should be the tagline. Body parts
Yes,
and all
Jessica
kinds of
Jones,
stuff.
body parts and all kinds of stuff. Tristan, now you have to Photoshop that.
Isn't that going to be our title?
No. Actually, ours is irreverence, irresponsibility, and what's the other one? Irrelevance, yeah. I think it's irresponsibility, irrelevance, irreverence. No, irreverence, irrelevance. It
I
doesn't
was saying
matter.
for the title of this podcast.
It's irresponsibility.
Yes, that's it. That's it. So there's going to be a spinoff there, and then season 2 of Daredevil is halfway devoted towards Elektra, and the other half is devoted towards the Punisher, and how Daredevil relates to them, basically. So we get to introduce those characters. You know, they're interesting characters, but we introduce them in the context of Daredevil's story. So we get the backstory of the Punisher.
Is it Scarlett Johansson as Elektra again?
No.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Scarlett Johansson
Was
was
it
never
she?
Elektra.
Yeah, no,
She
that
was Elektra the first time.
No, she wasn't.
no,
I said who
no,
was?
she wasn't. It was the she played
Jennifer Garner?
Alias. Yeah, Jennifer Garner was Elektra.
Who the heck is Jennifer Garner?
Interesting thing is that Elektra had OCD and this one didn't. And I thought that was part of the character to begin with, but they went with a different interpretation of Elektra, I guess. She was more of a spoiled brat rich kid, but it was all a front, kind of. Anyway, so they introduced these two characters and their backstories in the context of Daredevil's story. So, like, you know how he's burning the candle at both ends? He's a lawyer and he's a crime fighter. So the lawyer side of him deals with the Punisher, and the crime fighter side deals with Elektra. So it's real interesting. I wouldn't say that season 2 gets 10 out of 10 stars. I would give it 8.5, but still worth watching if it's your style.
You know, I feel like I remember in the movie Daredevil, he gets romantically entangled with Elektra.
Mhm.
So if his crime fighter side is dealing with Elektra in the TV show, are they going to end up romantically entangled in the TV show? And then spin off from that, is his lawyer side, who's dealing with the Punisher, going to get romantically entangled with the Punisher?
Good question, but no. Actually, yes, he is or was romantically entangled with Elektra. And
I
they
thought you were going to
almost...
say Punisher for a
I
second.
was
No.
really hoping for Punisher.
No, okay, that could be a slash fic if you want, but
Alex Reed slashback.
yes, no. I mean, I can tell you why he's involved with the Punisher, but I don't want to spoil it. So it's not spoiler so much because it's part of canon that they're romantically involved, Elektra and Daredevil. But in the TV show, it's in their past that they romantically involved, that they used to date. And then she shows back up in his life and needs his help, and then they almost rekindle the flame, I'll say. I won't say whether they make it work or not. I don't want to give that away. But they do try.
It's really hard to make it work when, according to canon, little known fact, romantic involvement between the Punisher and Daredevil.
Tristan?
Yes.
Okay, so we talked before we were recording about the Punisher, because I was explaining to you guys some stuff about the Punisher that I'll go ahead and repeat. The Punisher is going to get his own show. So we were talking about the nature of how do you make a show about the Punisher? Do you make him the anti-hero, which he typically is when he's, the hero of his own story. But I liked the way they introduced him in Daredevil's story so that he's off to the side. We have this character, who, by the way, is played by the actor who played Shane in The Walking Dead. So it's actually a really, really good fit, which I said on the podcast last year, interestingly enough. The way that he plays the character, puts him on screen, is really interesting. Very understated, very dry, very driven, doesn't really care what people think, so he doesn't say much. If you know the story of the Punisher, then you already know basically what they're going to have him do in the season. But it's all in the background of the story. Like, they focus on him a lot, but they also need to focus on Daredevil because it's his show. But as a result of introducing the character and all of his motivation therein, then we get him to a point where he's off by his own. At the end of season 2, he's got his Gatling gun. He's got his shirt with the armor with the shirt over it that has the Punisher skull on it.
Yep.
And now
And
in
his
his
twin
TV show,
1911s?
Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a whole armory by the end of the season, and it's really awesome. So, the TV show now can focus on him. He can be an anti-hero, he can have his own story, but the problem was that introducing him, it's so obligatory, I suppose, giving his backstory, that it really works to give the backstory in Daredevil's TV show.
I think it does work, given what you know about the Punisher as a character. I think it was a good choice, from what I'm hearing.
And also, he's still trying to figure out who he is at that point, so now he has that figured out. We end Daredevil Season 2, beginning, basically, Daredevil Season 3, as well as Punisher Season 1. Like, they both are led to. So we're going to get some sort of story of him fighting the criminal underground, but now we get to root for him because he's the main character. But in a way that we root for people who are always being good or nice. And I think that's what's so good about Marvel, is the anti-heroes.
They do have good anti-heroes.
Yeah, in the same way that we sometimes root for the bad guys in DC because we can associate with them in some ways, but Marvel does it in a way where they have people they're fighting that are definitively worse than they are in many ways.
Yeah, I always associated with Darkseid.
Darkseid.
Of the Force?
No, I mean, just immortal god of my world, just wanting to take over other dimensions, and these little gnats stopping my armies. Jerks.
How long, Tristan, do I have to talk about the cinematic universe, the movies that are coming out?
I will give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2
That sounds
minutes.
fair.
Because we have gone really long. So you
Oh, that's
got 2
fine,
minutes.
yeah. I like going really long. Okay. What I wanted to talk about back in November is still not necessarily common knowledge. Like, it's public knowledge, but not a lot of people are talking about it. But the plot of the new Thor movie, what I understand about it involves an alien fighting arena where Thor ends up. Then while he's there in the alien fighting arena, guess who he comes across? He comes across the Hulk. And the Hulk is having this issue where he's having trouble going back to Bruce Banner. But the two are becoming one, so he's smart, he can talk and everything, but he is now the Hulk. It's just
So it's kind of like Beast from X-Men.
Yeah, like, the two minds have melded at this point, so he's not just a mindless fighting machine, but the two have melded. It's now Bruce Banner and the Hulk at the same time, sort of, and he's trying, I would assume he's going to try and find a way to get back to being Bruce Banner, but that's where he is, at least what I read a long time ago, which they may have changed it since then, because they change a lot, while they're making a lot of comic book movies, like how they reshot a lot of scenes from Suicide Squad.
Right. So you've got Thor and Bruce Banner Hulk in this fighting arena somewhere. Where?
On an alien planet somewhere, one of the 9 realms. I don't know what they're going to be doing, except that we know that we need to deal with Loki pretending to be the king.
Okay.
Like, they don't know about it because he's being pretty low-key about it, but they're going to find out. So, okay, that was one movie. But you know what we could do is we could talk about Civil War next time, because I think we're all going to be excited for that.
All right, so tune in 10 episodes from now when we talk about Civil War.
Time.
I will definitely be seeing Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
Time is not on your side this time. Wait, shit.
Yeah, you said time twice.
I know, it makes for a really bad villain speech when you do that.
Line. Time does not travel in lines.
You need to work on your
It goes in
monologue.
circles.
Clock. That's what clocks around.
There you go. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, peoples.
Goodbye.
I didn't realize season 4 is your favorite.
Yes, by far.
He's always talking about season 4, Malachi. Always.
I just love everything about like Sarge. Like in this season, we'll talk about next time. Like I got to the part to where Sarge is trying to get the ship off of Donut, and Simmons is like giving his. Why don't we get in the ship and put up the landing gear and then lift up the ship? And then Sarge is talking about all his nonsensical things.
I've already got the panel open and everything.
He's got all his fake memories of him and Donut sharing good times.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back to base and get my levitation ring," and just it's like, "I don't have time to listen to your crackpot ideas, Simmons."
One of the best quotes from the season is, "It's Sarge. He wants me to do stuff, work stuff. He doesn't want me to eat ice cream. Son of a Ben and Jerry, who's going to help me eat all this ice cream we found?"